Hello everybody, this is Dom from Upstate Supernatural. This week, due to scheduling conflict with our guest that we were supposed to have previously, we're actually going to do a little bit different. The guest for tonight is actually myself, because I've never done the series. I've never kind of told my story about why I've gotten into the field. For anybody that's interested, take a seat and enjoy. If you have any questions, please leave it in the chat. And in just a second, I'm going to introduce our guest host to do the questions and so forth. Thanks again. Also, just to let everybody know, we have our shows Thursday, 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. on liveparanormal.com. We do Spirit Box Weekly on Fridays, 11 p.m., 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. And in 2 weeks, we have a Supernatural Expo at the Auburn Mall in the Finger Lakes, which you can find out all the information for that by going to www.upstatesupernatural.com. And there's a tab right in there. It'll give you all the information you may need to learn in order to get there, or what to bring. And you're on.
Hi, everybody. You ready, Dom?
Yep.
Okay. First question. You could tell us your name and the group that you work with.
And I am Dom Valerio. I am the owner and co-founder of Upstate Supernatural. And I also have co-founded Paranormal Global TV with Simon James and ParaGhoster. And in the next couple months, I'll be coming out with a business of ghost hunter tech. It'll be a store that you can buy custom gear, cameras, and different types of ghost hunting gear that you could use out in the field at an affordable price instead of all the other stores that kind of give a higher end price for stuff that shouldn't be that high.
Very good. Okay, how long have you been investigating the paranormal?
I've been investigating for probably about, well, let me switch the questions. For roughly 8 years, on and off. The last 2 to 3 years, I've been a lot more focused on it, but I began probably about 8 years ago.
Very good. What caused you to be interested in the field of ghost hunting?
I've always had a curiosity with spirits. I've always had a curiosity with ghosts. When I was 6 years old, my grandmother passed away, and I went to her funeral. And about 2 years later, I was sleeping in bed, and I saw what looked to be a lady in my bedroom. And the thing with my grandmother is when she passed away, I wandered around in the funeral home. I got locked in one of the rooms where they had all the caskets, and one of them was prepped up for the next funeral. So my brain captured the image of what that lady was that was in the casket in that room, and I thought that was my grandmother for at least 2-3 years. 2 years later, this apparition or spirit came to me in my bedroom, and my mom was going through pictures maybe a week later, and I see a photo of the lady that was in my room. And it kind of got me interested, like what was that? Like that had to be my grandmother. It looked like her. It had to be. And I kind of didn't do too much with it at that point, but I'd always researched a little bit. Then when I was 23, I was working on a tour boat, and my friend Brian brought a photo of his bathroom bath mat. They had 2 little kid prints on the bath mat, and he goes, "Dude, you got to check this out." I go, "You don't have any children. Why is there, the logical question, why do you have children's footprints on a bath mat in your apartment?" And he goes, "I think it's haunted." So we go there, and 2 nights of investigating, I bought my first recorder. I still use the same one to this day. First night, doing an investigation. The EVP I caught was "Mommy, Are We Dead?" And after that, I was hooked. I just stuck with it, and I couldn't get away from it.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. All of us have some interesting stories. Is there a particular story that you would like to tell?
I would say probably the most interesting story I can tell is it's two stories in one. But one of my friends, Nick, who's also co-founder of Upstate Supernatural, the mall had a blackout. Somebody hit one of the lines outside and it blacked out the whole mall. He had to work security and had to work the whole mall for that evening. And I went in there. We had a voice recorder. You couldn't use anything that could plug into the wall because there was no power. But we decided, let's try the mag light trick. Let's try the mag light thing. Unscrew it a little bit, see if it'll fluctuate. And I ended up thinking, hey, maybe this will work. Maybe this will work. And he's setting it up, and I walk away. I walk in front of him away and set mine up, and he's still over setting his up. And I walk back, and he looks up, and he sees me walking towards him, and he goes, "You're not behind me?" And I'm like, "No, obviously I'm right here. I'm in front of you." And he goes, "Well, somebody's behind me." And when he does that, he said that he saw like a black shimmer pass behind him. So I kept giving him all this, all this slack about, "Come on, dude, are you really that scared? Come on, come on, come on." So I go down to Guernsey Hollow. I was seeing my my aunt and my cousin, and Guernsey Hollow is a cemetery down near Jamestown. And I'm there. It's my sister, my cousin Jamie, and myself. And we're setting up, just kind of walking around, voice recorders, and we had a GoPro. And I decided to put a laser grid pen on one of the tombstones. And as I'm setting it down and setting it up, it felt like there was somebody behind me. So I'm thinking, oh, it's my cousin, because my cousin was really interested in this. And I turn and look, and they are 5 to 6 feet away from me. And I'm just like, whoa. Like all the stuff I gave to him, like for freaking out, I was like, uh-oh. So it was
Wow,
pretty interesting.
I'd say. So, how many investigations would you say that you've been on?
For investigations, I would say honestly, if we're gonna go by location, I would say we're probably about 40. But if we're gonna go by uh, like a certain location, I've actually probably done them all at least 40 to 45 times. Gone through there, done like 4 or 5 7-hour sessions every time within the past 5 years. But beyond that, other locations, I'd say probably about 40.
Very nice. During an investigation, is there a certain equipment that you prefer to use?
Voice recorder is number one for me. I don't care if I have a flashlight anymore. I mean, it's more for safety, obviously, so you can see where you're going, so you don't trip and fall or get hurt. But really, the key is voice recorder for me. I do like using a surveillance, but I also want to try to evolutionize to something different. Um, but again, handy cams are great, but you're going to be focused on basically trying to get that in the right direction, and you may miss something as you're using it. Whereas a voice recorder, if you're holding it out in your hand, you always have full capture of whatever's around you. So I would say a voice recorder, a flashlight, motion lights. I think they work a lot better than trying to do the flashlight tricks. The spirit box. Don't just go out and get one. Learn how to use it. Basically know how it works, know what you're listening for, and then use it. Uh, we started out one investigation before I really got into the spirit box stuff, and we didn't really know what we were listening for, so it didn't work out in the best light.
Good advice. What do you think is the greatest part of doing an investigation? What do you find to be the greatest part?
Uh, Again, with that question, I think everybody has. It depends on the investigators, but everybody kind of either likes to go out in the field and investigate, or they like to go over the footage. There are people that like to do both. For most investigators, I think the rush of being in the investigation, it's like an adrenaline rush. Not knowing what you're going to hear, not knowing what you're going to see. Uh, I think that's a huge, a huge part of being one of the better parts of investigating. But really going through the footage, especially audio for me. I mean, I've done a lot of audio. When you hear that EVP, when you hear that Class A, Class B, Class C, whatever you hear, that's that's one of the greatest things. When you capture something that you thought you heard and actually you did. I think that's the reinforcement to keep going out there and doing it.
Definitely. Awesome. To any new people that might be interested in joining the field, any tips that you might have for them?
The that question, it actually stemmed from something that kind of happened with myself. We went to an expo, tried to join a group, and they basically said, "Sorry, we're not interested," without even talking to us. And then I played them an EVP, which we captured in the mall, which not many individuals have gone to the mall to investigate. Not many people investigate a mall. Um, they're like, oh, if you want to join our team. And at that point, we're like, I think we'll do our own thing at this point. To anybody that's newly interested in the field, either find a team that's really willing to be open to having you join, or find a buddy and take that journey together. Take all the curiosities that you have, talk about them with each other, and start your own thing. Don't be afraid to get out there and do it. You're never going to find anything if you're waiting for somebody else to find it for you. If you look, you may find something that of what you were searching for.
That's great advice, Dom. What is your viewpoint on things like spirit boxes?
Spirit boxes, I think, can be a huge utilization in the field. Uh, as long as, again, as I said a little bit earlier, if you know how to use it, what you're hearing, also if if you try different styles. I do the show Spirit Box Weekly, where I'm trying to showcase different spirit boxes, different devices like that. But every device works differently. Same with every voice recorder. Like for myself, Olympus is by far my favorite choice for a voice recorder. Other individuals like an RCA, they like a Sony. Spirit boxes are the same way. You may be able to hear something better on a certain device than what you do on another. And it's not necessarily the quality of the device, it's really the quality of how well you have learned that device, how well you have learned how to translate what's going through it. But I do think they can be hugely utilized. But again, you want to try not to contaminate your audio when you're doing it.
Very good. What is your viewpoint on things like Ouija boards?
The Ouija board is a board uh, that you can buy this game at KB Toys R Us, and it's something that children can play with, or families can play with. Personally, I think the newer age Ouija boards are just that. I think they're a game, or a tool towards a game, I guess. The older boards, I feel that there's a stronger energy that's latched to them, and I think it's just the more somebody tries to utilize any device or any tool for that type of communication, that's when it links to it. So I mean, if you got a brand new board from a toy store and you're using that board every single day, 5 times, 10 times a day, trying to communicate with spirits, eventually, I think it will actually be latched onto, Whereas, you know, if somebody bought it and they never used it, I don't think it's dangerous in that light. But with any spirit communication, we don't know who we're talking to, what we're talking to. So, I mean, it's definitely, there's that cautiousness we should always have, no matter what. Because if it's demons and we think they're dead people, they're manipulating us. If they're dead people and they're trying to possess us, they could be manipulating us. Or if they're dead people and they're confused on where they are, we could be actually helping them. So I mean, there's so many different outlets that you could look at.
Very cool. Is there certain devices or applications you feel work better than others?
For that, I would say right now, spirit box wise, I'm a huge fan of the Phasma box. I'm a huge fan of the XTS spirit radio. I'm also a big fan of the Echo Vox 2.5, the original Echo Vox. The newest version with the reverb and everything else in there, it does make it a little more difficult. Also, I mean, surveillance system. Again, I think they're useful for sure, because you can record everything in view. The only hindsight is some of them don't come with audio, and to sit there and listen to video without audio is kind of difficult at times. But for applications, I would say Phasma Box, Echo Vox 2.5, the XTS. I've had outstanding communication with. I honestly, I haven't had a chance to use it, but the Ghost Cam Pro through Ghost Hunter apps, if that works, I think it'd be an awesome utilization where it takes pictures if the temperature changes. I really do think that would be a huge thing out in the field.
Great. What would you say you feel is the worst thing that you've ever come across?
The worst thing I ever came across was actually at a private business. We were doing an investigation, and the individual did not tell us anything too much about the location, other than there was an older woman upstairs. And the older woman, she was one of the founding fathers' daughters that lived in this establishment of the city that I live in. And it was an office building, you know, it was a private business. We try to keep most of our cases, especially if they're a business, and they don't want it to be known, so people aren't trying to sit out front and see what's happening. We try to leave it private for them. But I was walking around a room, and we walked around the room together. It was Nick and myself and Shelby. And then Nick goes, you gotta walk around the room by yourself. You can just feel something around you. So I walk around the room, and I get towards this pillar, and all of a sudden I just get stopped in my tracks. I can't move. I couldn't move my legs, move my arms, move my head, if maybe up just a tad. And then all of a sudden it just went away. So we go back for another investigation, and we had a new investigator with us. We didn't tell him anything about what happened to me, just so we didn't taint his experience. And he goes in the same room, a different location in the room, but he goes in the same room, and the same thing happened to him. He explained it exactly the same as I did, and it was fascinating. Do I know what it was, or why it happened? I think it was actually a spirit pissed off, and it was trying to stop us from moving, personally. Judging by the EVP before I got stopped, which was stop meddling with us. But beyond that, I don't know. But I mean, it wakes you up, because half the time when you're investigating, you don't think anything can touch you. You don't think you can be affected. But something like that happens, and it flashes, you know, the truth to you that you don't know. Anything could happen.
It's very true. I have to agree with you there. What is your theory of why or how ghosts exist?
My theory for why or how ghosts exist is actually pretty simple. I mean, everybody else probably has the same theory. a person dies, they have a choice to either go to heaven, go to hell, or stay. And I think that a spirit or a ghost exists because it's people are either afraid to be judged, they're afraid to move on, they're afraid that there's something that they can do for their family, or they're trying to look out for their family. I think when it first starts out, they make that choice, and then eventually they feel stuck. But I think a majority of it is the fear of judgment. I think that's what a lot of it is.
Okay, great. Were you ever a skeptic or per se a non-believer?
Um, I I definitely was a skeptic the first time I investigated. Uh, Seeing the photo of the child's prints in the bath mat, I thought he was messing with me. Catching the EVP, I thought it was him screwing with me. But really, for when I was hanging out with him, it was just him and I just sitting in a room. And I watched this trash can lid start, the flap kind where you push it in to put your trash in. Just watch the lid just flapping back and forth. And there was no wind. There was nothing that could have caused that. On that day, everything was closed. All the windows were closed. That kind of got to me. And going up to the door handle to his bathroom, just to use the bathroom, and it started shaking. That kind of opened up my mind to it. And then I really started to focus more and more. And I would say the first investigation, I was probably a non-believer or skeptical. I'm skeptical of every other investigator out there, because I really feel everybody out there is trying to like make something up to show something that's really not there. But overall, I really do feel that they exist. They're around us all the time.
Very good. Well, now we open up the room for people to ask questions. If there's any questions from any of the viewers.
And again, for the Supernatural Expo, it's October 2nd is a public hunt. It's $10 for the public hunt from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. in Auburn, New York at the Finger Lakes Mall. All proceeds for the public ghost hunt, and all proceeds for the expo. There's no fee to go to the expo, but any teams that decide to get a table, it's $30 for a table, and all proceeds go to charity. You can find all the information for that on upstatesupernatural.com. And we will be doing, after the expo, we'll be doing a private live stream event on liveparanormal.com and on YouTube. You'll be able to see two different sections of the investigation. As of right now, there's two teams that'll be doing the investigation with us. If there's other teams that show up for the expo, we're probably going to slide them in to investigate with us for that live stream event as well.
Great.
Is there any questions that you can think of off the top of your head, or?
Yeah, actually, I do have a question. I was wondering, what made you get started on YouTube?
The YouTube was actually, I was trying to find a simple way to just put our findings out there. When it started out, all we did was put up the Shadow Walker footage, EVPs from investigations. And then the shows actually started because of watching Noreen and Dave and you and Cindy doing the ITC sessions, and Steve Huff. and I saw that, and a lot of people were watching it, and I was like, this is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And then I watched Steve Huff's, and I never really saw him showing how to use the devices. So I was like, why don't I make a show where I show how to use them? And eventually, I started thinking about the idea of, there's so many ghost hunters out there that they're not on TV. There's so many people out there that love this that nobody knows who they are. So I go, why don't I do the interview of the ghost hunter and get people to see real people in the paranormal, not just the people that are on the TV shows. And I'm always there. There has to be a positive and a negative, so I had to go with here's the ghost hunter, here's the skeptic, because you got to have both sides. And I really feel that we can learn more from a skeptic on how to investigate, just by asking them simple questions. It'll open our eyes a lot more to what we're trying to do.
I agree with you. I also have another question about that. Have you found it more challenging to find people within the paranormal to do interviews with or skeptics to do interviews with?
Well, everybody says, oh, well, I know this skeptic, I know this skeptic, I know this skeptic. But honestly, I've had the show out there, and I mean, a lot of people have seen it. I've shared it numerous times. It is very difficult to find skeptics that will go public
Uh-huh.
with a questionnaire to answer stuff, even though it's nothing. Like, the questions don't demean them at all. Not at all. They're not demeaning at all. It's more or less, what do you believe in the afterlife? What do you believe the afterlife is? And there's questions like that, but nothing, basically, trying to make a knock at them. It's really trying to find the curiosity of why they're a skeptic. Why do I think they exist, and why do you not think they do? And yeah, it's difficult finding skeptics to interview.
Interesting. That's really interesting, actually. Huh. I'll have to see if I can drag in any skeptics for you. That's great. Now I have another question. What is the place at the top of your list of places you want to investigate and why?
The place I would love to investigate uh, would be Alcatraz. Alcatraz is there's something about it that even when I was a young child, I have always had a curiosity. I love the Clint Eastwood movie Escape from Alcatraz, the Nicolas Cage Sean Connery movie The Rock, and just historically, it's epic. And even if I went there and didn't find anything, to say that I went to Alcatraz would just be awesome. I mean, I'm on the eastern coast, so I mean, Alcatraz is completely the opposite spectrum, and it's just hugely historic. I think another place that I would like to try to investigate, if it's ever possible, and I'm not sure that it would be, is actually the Titanic. To try to capture like EVPs underwater, I'm not sure if it's possible, but I think it would be interesting to try to either scuba dive into it or so forth. I think it would be fascinating. Be a new genre of investigating for sure.
That's definitely a new endeavor right there. Wow. Wow, that would be pretty neat. I have another question. If you could investigate with anybody on the planet, okay, you can even bring people back. You can like travel through time. Who would you investigate with and why?
That's extremely difficult. Um,
I know, that's why I asked.
um, I would probably have to say Tesla.
Okay.
Uh, for me, I believe Tesla was the first scientist that kind of hit the nail on the head with spirit communication. I mean, with all the frequencies that are out there, he kind of tapped into it, and there's not a lot of information about it. I'd love to just sit down and talk to him. Not even We wouldn't even have to investigate. Just talk to him about the how to do it. If they're still alive, I would say, a group that I would want is Papa Nana, you, and Jenna, and
Well, thank
I
you.
think we would be able to investigate anywhere, and I think we would probably find some amazing stuff. Um, it all depends on locale and so forth.
Right? Awesome. See, I had to throw you for a loop. You always throw all of us for a loop whenever we're interviewed. I had to throw you for a loop. So that was my loop that I threw. Um, and you did a great job. Tesla's absolutely excellent pick. Very cool. Well, if anybody in the chat has any questions, and actually, there's another question. What actually made you decide to team up with them all and the local teams and such and do the expo?
The Finger Lakes Mall. I worked for a tour boat for 7 years. I was the first mate on Amita 2 on the Erie Canal. I did that for 7 years. I was going to college for telecommunications, and then I switched from that and went and did the boat for 7 years. Then after that, I started working in like food service and stuff like that. I was working as assistant manager at the pizza shop in the mall for about a year and a half to 2 years. And my friend Nick, just as I was about to leave, became a security guard there. And I'd heard stories from my old manager about seeing like a shadow or something in the back room, a back stock room. But I kind of took it as a grain of salt because she kind of told a lot of stories. But Nick one day goes, I heard you've investigated before. And he goes, you're not going to believe this. And he goes, I was walking, doing my rounds, and there was a gate. It was for Rex entertainment goods, like TVs and appliances and so forth. And he heard like somebody took their hand and went like that down a gate. And he goes, dude, I ran. He goes, I didn't know what the hell to do. I just ran. And I said, all right, when's the next day you close? Because I usually get out, around the time when, you're about to close up and so forth. I'll just walk with you. You mind if I bring a voice recorder? So I bring the voice recorder, and we're just walking around. And, you kind of get a feeling, like an eerie feeling sometimes when you're doing stuff. And we decided to stop. I stopped right in front of Rex. He stopped in front of the shoe department, which is right across from Rex, where Rex used to be. And I'm just holding the voice recorder out, and I heard a voice. And I turn around and go, Nick, what? And he goes, dude, I didn't say anything. And I go, what? I mean, that was clear as hell. Like, there's no way. And we're going back through the recorder, and sure enough, we listen to it and you hear like a little click sound, and then it goes, please. And it's actually on it's on my original channel, which just has like stupid videos of me and playing guitar and other stuff. But it's on there for what we tried to call it beforehand when we tried to come out like doing a group type stuff. But yeah, it was fascinating. And then the next time we went there, we heard a bang on a door that there was nobody in the room. It was the old Stephen Barry's spot. We're walking by, and all of a sudden you just hear a bam, like really loud. Somebody punched it, and he's a security guard, runs over with his flashlight. He's looking, and there's nobody there. And since that, that was probably 4 years ago. I would say he and I went every Thursday night, every Saturday night, and then every other Friday I would actually go with another security guard, and we'd just wander around. And it would just be, they'd be locking up, and I would just walk with them when they locked up. We wouldn't go in any stores. We would just walk around the grounds as they're locking up. And we call it a woman's moan, a child's voice. Called male voices. There was another area in the mall, the old Stephen Barry's spot. We went upstairs. Every time you take a digital camera with a flash, you hear "Please stop shooting me" on an EVP. Regrettably for the expo, we can't get anybody in there because it's taken by another store. The mall once we kind of talked to them all about uh, doing an investigation there, a sanctioned hunt there, because we were interested in trying to make it more official, they said, well, why don't you do an expo? We go, do an expo? And they're like, yeah, why don't you guys host it? So last year we had our very first Supernatural Expo. We had the group Soul Searchers that we had them co-host with us. And I think every year we're going to do that. We're going to have another team come in and co-host with us on the expo. Just it is a large location, and I like to share. I like to show collaboration. I really am very focused, Nick and I both, on trying to form para-unity. It's extremely difficult because a lot of teams are, I hate to say it, but they're not in the field for the right reasons. They want to be on TV. I enjoy my day job. I do this as fun. I do this as enjoyment. I do this as a curiosity. I do this as trying to learn things. But there's other groups that they hate their day job and they want to try to be on TV. And you start to see more and more of that as you get more into the social media type stuff. But every year I plan to have, every year the mall lets us do the expo. I would like to have another group come in and co-host. I think it opens it up to them. Not a lot of teams have investigated there, so I think it opens it up a lot more.
No, I think that's absolutely great. And more teams and more people within the paranormal should take a lesson and do the same, Dom, because you're doing a great job of it. And we appreciate, I can tell you, we appreciate everything that you do for the field and for all of us. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Trying to see if there's any questions popping up.
I think we might have got them all.
And everybody, don't forget to check out tonight at 10 p.m. on liveparanormal.com. You have Jenna with a J and Niki ParaUnNormal's radio show at 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. on liveparanormal.com. And then upcoming next week, we have our Thursday show on Live Paranormal, 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. And then our Friday show will be 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. It's the last week we're going to be testing the Phasm box. The week after that, there will be no Friday show. But Saturday, we will have 2 different live feeds for the Supernatural Expo private investigation. You can watch either one. If you'd like to chat on the Live Paranormal one, you have to be logged into Live Paranormal. For the YouTube, you can just watch it and type right on YouTube. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. I'd be happy to answer anything. Yeah, I'm not really seeing too many questions right now. If you're also interested, Paraglobal TV, if you have a YouTube channel, you can get a hold of Simon James, myself, Hidden Beneath, or Rusty Reporter. And we will be happy to try to add your channel into Paraglobal TV. Just let either one of us know, and we will be happy to try to keep track with the upcoming shows and so forth. Any other questions you might have in the top of your head, or not really?
No, I think, no,
Okay.
no.
All right. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. You guys have a great weekend. Don't forget to check out Niki's show tonight, and we'll see you on Thursday. Have a great evening, and we will talk to you later.